The mahogany doors of the executive boardroom swung shut behind me with a heavy thud. I stood at the head of the table, facing the disapproving stares of our hotel chain's board of directors, my father Robert, my uncle James, and their longtime business associates. The quarterly financial report I prepared lay untouched in front of them. I'm Michael Zhang, 36, and until today, I was the chief financial officer of Zhang Luxury Hotels, a chain of high-end properties my grandfather built from nothing 50 years ago. The company had been my life since I could walk, from helping housekeeping as a kid to working every position in our flagship hotel through college. But something had changed in the past year, and I was about to find out what. These numbers are concerning, my father began, his voice cold. Care to explain the discrepancies? I straightened my tie. Which discrepancies are you referring to? The books are completely transparent. Transparent? Uncle James cut in, his usually jovial face twisted with disdain. Is that what you call hiding millions in losses? Losses? I opened my laptop, pulling up the real-time financial dashboard I implemented last year. Our revenue is up 22% year over year. Occupancy rates are at an all-time high. The new property in Singapore is already turning a profit 6 months ahead of schedule. Exactly, my father said, exchanging a look with Uncle James. Suspiciously ahead of schedule. The accusation in his voice made my blood run cold. For the past year, I'd noticed irregular patterns in our accounts. Small discrepancies that didn't add up. I'd been quietly investigating, documenting everything, but I hadn't expected them to move against me so soon. If there are concerns about the numbers, I said carefully, I welcome a full audit. In fact, that won't be necessary, Uncle James interrupted. The board has already made its decision. My father stood, buttoning his Italian suit jacket. Michael, you're terminated from your position as CFO, effective immediately. Security will escort you to clear out your office. The room spun. You're firing me? Without an investigation. Without due process. Due process. Uncle James laughed. This isn't a court, nephew. This is family business. As if on cue, 2 security guards entered the boardroom. Guards I'd known since childhood, who now couldn't meet my eyes. You can't do this, I said, my voice steady despite the shock. I'm not just an employee, I'm a shareholder. I have rights. About that, my father pulled out another document. As majority shareholders, we're exercising our right to force a buyout of your shares. The paperwork has already been filed. The pieces clicked into place. The irregular transactions. The rushed Singapore project. The mysterious new investors. They weren't just firing me, they were pushing me out completely. You think I haven't noticed the money moving through shell companies? I asked quietly. The inflated contractor invoices. The consulting fees to offshore accounts. For a split second, something flickered across my father's face. Surprise? Fear? But it was gone instantly. Security, he barked. Please remove my son. He's clearly become delusional. As the guards approached, I caught a glimpse of Lisa, my father's new executive assistant, watching from the doorway with an odd expression. She'd only been with the company 6 months, but something about her had always seemed familiar. Don't bother, I said to the guards, gathering my things. I know a way out. Walking through the hotel lobby for the last time, I passed the massive portrait of my grandfather that hung above the reception desk. His stern face seemed to watch me, and I remembered his words from years ago. In business, trust your instincts, but verify everything. I'd done more than verify. For the past year, I've been building a parallel record of every transaction, every decision, every suspicious pattern. When I first noticed the discrepancies, I brought in a forensic accountant friend to help me document everything, officially as a systems upgrade consultant. In my apartment that evening, I opened my secure cloud drive and began reviewing the evidence. Millions in fake invoices, properties purchased at inflated prices from shell companies. A complex web of transactions that all seemed to lead back to one name, Phoenix Global Investments. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Back entrance of Carter's Diner, 11 p.m. Come alone. Bring your laptop. L. Lisa. I hesitated, then checked the security cameras I had installed around my apartment after the irregularities began. No suspicious vehicles or people watching the building. Still, I made 3 random turns before heading to the diner, watching for any tails. The diner was mostly empty when I arrived. I took a seat with my back to the wall, laptop ready. At exactly 11, Lisa slid into the booth across from me. "Sorry about today," she said without preamble. "I couldn't warn you without blowing my cover." "Your cover?" She pulled out a badge. "Lisa Chen, FBI White Collar Crimes Division. We've been investigating Phoenix Global for months. Your father and uncle's company isn't the only one they've targeted." My mouth went dry. "Targeted?" "Phoenix Global's MO is consistent," she explained. "They identify successful family businesses, usually in hospitality or real estate. They approach the senior management, in your case, your father and uncle, with promises of huge returns. They use shell companies to inflate property values, fake renovations, hide losses. By the time anyone realizes what's happening, they've stripped the company bare and disappeared." But why would my father and uncle go along with this? Greed, desperation. Sometimes they're being blackmailed. Sometimes they genuinely believe they're just being clever with accounting. "We're still figuring out your father's angle." She paused. "But we do know they planned to get rid of you months ago. You were getting too close to the truth." I thought about the documentation I'd gathered, the patterns I'd noticed. "I have evidence. A lot of it." Lisa, if that was her real name, nodded. "We know. That's why I'm here. We need your help to take them down. All of them. But it has to happen in the next 48 hours. "Why the rush?" "Because," she said grimly, "according to the documents we've intercepted, that's when Phoenix Global plans to empty all the accounts and disappear. Your family's company will be bankrupt by Monday morning." I opened my laptop, showing her my evidence. "Tell me what you need." As we pored over the documents, I couldn't help but think of my grandfather's portrait watching over the lobby. The company he'd built was about to be destroyed, either by exposure or by theft. But maybe, just maybe, there was a way to save it. "Okay," I said finally. "I'll help you, but I have two conditions." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "First, we do this my way. No arrests until I've secured the company's assets and protected the employees' jobs. Second, I pulled up a particular set of transaction records. I want to know who really owns Phoenix Global. Because I have a theory." Her eyes widened as she looked at the documents. "That's actually not what we expected. This goes deeper than we thought." "Much deeper," I agreed, thinking of the familiar patterns I'd recognized in Phoenix Global's methods. "And I think I know exactly how to prove it." As we left the diner, I caught my reflection in the window. I looked just like my grandfather in his old photos, determined and unbending. He'd built this company from nothing. Now it was my turn to save it. Little did my father and uncle know, their delusional son was about to expose a conspiracy that would shake the entire hospitality industry to its core. And Monday morning was going to be very, very interesting. Monday morning arrived with a thunderstorm that seemed fitting for what was about to unfold. I stood in the rain across from our flagship hotel, watching my father and uncle arrive early, no doubt planning to initiate Phoenix Global's final asset strip. "Everyone's in position," Lisa said through my earpiece. "Surveillance confirms Victor Chen just entered through the service entrance." My heart tightened. Victor Chen, my grandfather's former business partner, the man who tried to take over the company 30 years ago. The real owner of Phoenix Global Investments. "And you're sure about the evidence?" Lisa asked. "It's solid enough for the warrants?" I patted my briefcase. 30 years of documented fraud. Turns out my grandfather kept better records than anyone knew. Ready when you are. At exactly 8 a.m., I walked through the grand lobby one more time. The staff, many of whom I'd known for years, whispered and stared. News of my firing had spread fast, but they didn't know what was coming. In the executive boardroom, I found exactly what I expected. My father, uncle, Victor Chen, and several Phoenix Global consultants huddled over documents. "Michael." My father stood abruptly. "What are you doing here?" "Security." "They won't come," I said calmly, setting my briefcase on the table. "They're a bit busy with the FBI agents currently securing the building." The color drained from Victor Chen's face. He looked exactly as I remembered from childhood photos. Though older now, his sharp features had only grown more hawkish. "I don't know what you think you're doing," Uncle James started, but I cut him off. "Isn't it interesting," I said, opening my briefcase, "how Phoenix Global's method of taking over companies matches exactly what you tried to do to my grandfather in 1994, Mr. Chen." Victor's expression didn't change, but his hands tightened on his armrests. The same shell companies, I continued. The same pattern of inflated property values, even the same offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Did you really think no one would notice? You have no proof, Victor said smoothly, and your father and uncle have already signed over controlling interests to Phoenix Global. I smiled, pulling out a thick folder. Actually, I have 3 decades of proof, starting with your original attempt to defraud my grandfather. That's impossible, Victor snapped. Those records were destroyed in the fire. The fire you started? I raised an eyebrow. Grandfather wasn't as trusting as you thought. He kept copies of everything, in a place only family could find. My father's face had gone ashen. The hidden safe, behind his portrait. The one he showed me when I was 12, I nodded. Right before he told me to always watch for the patterns, to protect what he built. FBI agents began filing into the room, led by Lisa. Victor Chen stood, reaching for his phone. I wouldn't, Lisa said. We've already frozen all the accounts, including the ones in Dubai you thought we didn't know about. Dad, I turned to my father, whose world was visibly crumbling. Did you know? About what he did to grandfather? He collapsed into his chair. He said he could save us. The Singapore project was failing. We were losing millions. He promised to make it all disappear. By stealing the company grandfather built? By framing your own son? Uncle James broke down. We didn't know about the frame-up. He said we just needed to remove you because you were too conservative with expansion. When we realized what was really happening, he threatened to expose our involvement. Which is exactly what he did to 3 other families before targeting us. Lisa interjected, handcuffing Victor. But this time, we have enough evidence to put everyone away for a very long time. As Victor Chen was led out in handcuffs, still protesting, I turned to my father and uncle. The FBI has agreed to limit charges against you in exchange for cooperation. You'll have to step down from the company, but you might avoid jail time. The company, my father whispered. It's ruined anyway. The Singapore losses. Actually, I pulled out my laptop. There never were any real losses. The Singapore property is doing exactly as well as I reported. Victor manipulated the numbers to make you desperate enough to trust him, just like he did to grandfather. I showed them the real books, the ones I'd kept separate and secure. The ones showing our company was not just profitable, but thriving. As majority shareholder now, I continued, I'll be restructuring the board. New oversight, new compliance procedures, but the company stays in the family. It's what grandfather would have wanted. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings, press conferences, and corporate restructuring. The story made headlines. Historic hotel chain saves industry from massive fraud ring. Victor Chen and his Phoenix Global conspirators faced multiple federal charges. My father and uncle, true to their word, cooperated fully and received suspended sentences. 3 months later, I stood in the lobby of our flagship hotel, overseeing the installation of a new portrait next to my grandfather's, this one showing 3 generations of Zhang hoteliers. Quite a change from that morning they fired you, Lisa said, joining me. She'd been appointed to our new compliance board, her FBI work done. Sometimes, I replied, you have to lose everything to save what matters. My phone buzzed. Occupancy rates were up 40% since the scandal. Turned out, our guests appreciated a hotel chain known for exposing corruption rather than hiding it. Your grandfather would be proud, Lisa noted. You didn't just save his company, you made it stronger. I thought about the day I'd found his hidden records, how meticulously he documented everything. He must have known someday the company would face another threat like Victor Chen. The thing about family businesses, I said, watching guests stream through our lobby, is that they're not just about profits. They're about legacy, about building something that lasts. My father appeared at the edge of the lobby, looking older and more humble than I'd ever seen him. We were working on rebuilding our relationship slowly. He'd been joining me to visit every property, meeting employees, remembering what the company really meant to our family. Michael, he said hesitantly, the Singapore staff sent over their quarterly reports. Would you like to review them together? I smiled, thinking of my grandfather's words about trust and verification. Actually, Dad, I'd like that very much. Later that evening, alone in my office, my grandfather's old office, I added a final note to the company records. In business, as in family, true strength isn't in never falling, but in how you rise after a fall. The company didn't just survive, it transformed. We became known for transparency, for ethical business practices, for treating employees like family. The scandal that was meant to destroy us became the foundation of something even stronger. And every morning, when I pass those portraits in the lobby, I remember that sometimes the biggest threats to a family business don't come from outside competitors, but from forgetting what made it special in the first place. As for Victor Chen, he's serving 20 years, his empire of fraud dismantled. My father and uncle are working with smaller hotels, helping them protect against similar schemes. And me? I'm running the company my grandfather built, protecting his legacy while building my home. Sometimes, when the light hits the lobby just right, I swear I can see my grandfather's portrait smile. He always said the true measure of a business isn't in its profits, but in its principles. Looking at our newly reorganized company, stronger, more ethical, more family-oriented than ever, I'd say we finally proved him right. After all, in the end, it wasn't just about saving a hotel chain. It was about saving our family's soul. And some things are worth more than all the Phoenix Global millions in the world. As I locked up my office that night, I added one final note to our company mission statement: built on integrity, preserved by vigilance, strengthened by forgiveness. Because sometimes, the hardest part of saving a family business isn't exposing the betrayal. It's finding a way to heal afterward. And that, more than any profit margin or property portfolio, is what makes a family business truly successful.